What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things that they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. And you can never force nobody else to wear them.
Hey guys, let's take a moment to think about this wonderful service called Anchor. It allows you to create your own podcast in an easy, streamlined fashion. I love it, I use it, and I recommend that you use it too. Please check out Anchor. Download the app and create your podcast today. It's easy, simple, and lots of fun. Peace.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Lock of Law 2 podcast, where I, Larry Wiggs, your host, talk about how iSee109. I like to call these numbers 10-9, but tomato, whether it's 10-9, 109, it doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to tell you the story about what happened to me. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years ago, and it simply put, I walked into a motel room, and right on the television, the channel or the cable box was set to 109, whether it was a channel or frequency or what have you. It was set to 109, and that's my story. That's the end of it. So really, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because it begs so many questions. Like, how did that happen? Let's talk about television today. Because when I was growing up, we had a few channels. I recall it being channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. And those were our stations. And so if you wanted to watch television, you had to choose a program on one of those stations. And that was basically how we watched television when I was a kid. Today, of course, we have thousands of channels to choose from, different sources, whether they be HBO, NBC, Stars, you name it. You know, the Roku allows you access to so many different apps. We have thousands of options. And in my case, I happened to walk into a motel room and I noticed that whatever channel or whatever frequency the television was set to, it was 109. Of all the thousands of channels, what did Humphrey Bogart say in Casablanca, I believe? Of all of the bars in Casablanca, she had to walk into mine. Like, literally, that's what it was. Like, of all of the possibilities, it was there, set on 109 or 10-9. And that was the room that I entered, and that's the room where I stayed. Now, that could be, this story could just be an isolated incident, and I could just say, hey, that was my experience, and that was it. But I've continued to have these experiences. I've continued to have these moments where I'm like, yo, how come these numbers are calling me? How come these numbers are making it a point that I notice them? And for me, having been born on October 9th, I, give meaning to those numbers 10 and 9. 10 being the 10th month, October, and 9, the 9th day of the month of October. But of course, if we went even farther back into history, October, oct means 8, and October wouldn't actually be the 10th month. So fundamentally, there's something that is incorrect here. But given our conventions of calling the 10th month October, that's what we do. That's the custom. That's the norm today. Therefore, October is the 10th month. And so when I see 10, I see October. So that's the story, guys. That is literally what happened. I walked into a hotel. Now, I'll be honest here. When I walked in and I saw those numbers on that television, I wondered, okay, is that a common frequency? Is that a common television channel? What is it about those numbers that are significant? Why? Why are those numbers there? That was one thought that went through my head. Another thought was, all right, the FBI, the CIA, they knew I was going to be in this particular motel, so they set that television, that cable box to that frequency so that when I enter, I would be able to see it and I would know they're on to me. I mean, that paranoid thought did go through my mind, but I'm not paranoid. I'm only documenting what I am experiencing, what I've seen. That although that thought did come and visit me, it quickly, left. I'm like, man, I'm not that important. Shoot, that's not it at all. And with the other experiences, for instance, I recall jumping into an Uber taxi on 2 different occasions, actually, now that I think of it, on 2 different occasions, and each time their radio station was set to 100.9. But the difference is that I was in 2 completely different countries. And so having seen 100.9 on the radio dial, it piqued my interest, but I have some sort of an explanation. I understand why, because that frequency, no matter where you are in the world, that frequency is a popular channel. I guess it's a strong frequency. The way I arrived at that conclusion is, I was in Mexico and I asked a gentleman, or I told my story to a gentleman, and he said, oh yeah, 100.9 is a popular radio station out here. So that makes sense. 100.9 is a popular radio station in Mexico. Therefore, if you jump in a random Uber, they may have their radio set to 100.9 because it's just popular. It occurred, that experience occurred in Mexico, but it also occurred when I was in the Sultanate of Oman. I jumped into another taxi at Uber, and the radio was set to 100.9 on that radio station. And I said, hey, there are those familiar call numbers. I think they call them call letters, but that's a frequency. Those are familiar numbers again. And there it was in Oman. Someone would have to tell me. I didn't ask, or I didn't get the answer. I don't know if 100.9 is a popular frequency in Oman, but it certainly was the radio station that car's dial was set to. So that's what happened. And and those were my cars. So again, going along with all of my other experiences with having stepped off the plane, after having gone through customs and baggage claim in Saudi Arabia, after my flight from Sri Lanka, I stepped out onto the curb to hail a taxi cab, and the taxi cab that came to pick me up had the license plate that started with those familiar digits, 109. So you see what I'm saying here? Like, yo, why do I keep attracting these numbers? Why are these numbers calling me like this? I mean, at this point, I have, basically 13 years of history of moments where these numbers have called me, and I know why. I have some idea why these numbers, why I've seen these numbers, and I'm not so fixated. It hasn't been a fixation for me. I hadn't really put the story together until 2019, and I just had these isolated incidents where I saw those numbers and I cataloged them. I can't say I cataloged them. I documented them. I have photo evidence and I posted about it on Facebook, and that was about it. That was the end of it. It was just, it was out of my system. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. Okay, let me post about that to Facebook and then go about my day. But when you have a history of these moments, and then you have the photos saved in your camera phone, and you look back and you piece these, start connecting the dots and putting these things together, then you start to see a picture. You start to see something, and then in 2019, for all of the events that occurred, surrounding the murder of Nipsey Hussle, and for everything that happened to me while I was in that desert. I mean, it was essentially, I came away from my experience in Oman with a story, and iSee109 and this story, my book 10-9, that's my story. So I came away from my travels and from my experiences with this story to tell. And that is essentially what I'm doing. I'm just telling my story, just relaying the tale of what happened to me, and it happened so frequently that it's unbelievable. I have a wealth of content. I have a wealth of experiences to draw from, and to just say, hey man, this is some bizarre stuff. You gotta check it out. Pay attention. Come with me on this journey. Listen, because some wild things have happened. I'll give you another example. My very first trip to Vietnam, I went through customs. I had gone through customs with the help of customs officials. If you go to Vietnam, in my case, I needed help, so I contacted a company that would help process me, help translate, and process all of my documents so I could get into the country smoothly. And that's exactly what they did. Someone met me at the airport, and they helped me get through Vietnam's customs. And all I had to do was provide documents. I had to pay a fee, of course, but someone was there to meet me, and everything was great. After they processed me through customs, and I was free to leave the airport, of course, part of the fee that I paid included a driver, and the driver was waiting for me. Well, the gentleman gave me my documents, gave me my passport, gave me my visas and everything, and he said, okay, now go to gate 10. Now, okay, to be completely honest, I don't recall if it was gate 10 or if it was gate 9. But either way, he told me go to this gate. It was either 10 or 9, and I thought, what? Well, okay, the first thought, I remember this very clearly. When he told me which gate to go to, I thought to myself, I'm going to hear, someone's going to tell me, or I'm going to hear 10 or 9 soon. And sure enough, here he says, okay, go to gate 9 or go to gate 10. And so I'm like, there it is. Here I am. All right. So I walked to the gate, and that's where my driver was waiting for me. And so after that, I met my driver, and I was like, all right, cool. Here we go again. Gate 9 or gate 10 or what have you. we get into the car, and this is in 2019. This was after Nipsey had been murdered, and sadly, I was devastated by that event. And what I did is, because I was in Vietnam, I wanted to feel comfortable. So when I jumped in the car, I asked the driver if I could play my music, and he said, "Sure, make yourself comfortable." So I threw on Nipsey Hussle's Victory Lap album, and there I was riding with my driver, through Saigon on my way to the hotel from the airport. First time I'd ever been in Vietnam. First time for, this whole experience was the first time. It's like I had no idea where I was going or whatnot, just along for the ride. And there I am listening to the title track from Victory Lap, yeah. Nip is spitting, and I'm like, yeah, just enjoying the vibes. Do you know the driver pulled up to a light and stopped? And as I'm listening to the title track from Victory Lap, I look out the window to my right and I see a hotel. And you know what the name of the hotel is? It's the Victory Hotel. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yo, that's bizarre. And it was a cool little moment of synchronicity. And it was a cool moment of just like, yo, this is bizarre, because there I am listening to Victory Lap, driving, passing the Victory restaurant, So in a very real way, I felt like Nipsey's spirit was with me. I felt that, my spirit guides were with me, because I was calibrated. I was right in pocket. 10 and 9 were with me. And then I made my way to the hotel, and I had a nice little story, about my arrival in Vietnam. And that's what happened. But, going back to that story as to what happened to me when I walked into that motel room, again, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't looking for it, and I saw it. And thankfully, I took a picture of what I saw, to document it. And now I have a collection of these stories and moments to just draw from. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you today. I am Larry Wiggs II. You're listening to the Lock of Law 2 podcast, where I talk about moments when iSee109, or 10-9 as I like to call it. Thanks for listening. Peace.
There are signs everywhere. When you see them, follow them. 109.